Hey everyone, remember a few years ago when I said the Note line was over and nobody believed me? In the year 2020, with the Note 20 Ultra, no one is trying to overtake the Note's throne, but rather it feels like Samsung is out to kill the Note family. Well, I was kind of right. The Note line as we once knew it no longer exists, replaced by two distinct devices, the Galaxy Fold line, which takes many elements of the Note, as well as this phone, the Galaxy S22 Ultra. Okay, so first up, the Galaxy S22 Plus that I just covered on my channel is very similar to this phone in so many different areas. So this video will essentially cover what makes the Ultra unique versus the standard S22 Plus and how the experience differs. Also, if this phone is worth the extra price over the S22 Plus. So first up, the design of this phone is really quite beautiful and exceptionally well made. It has a frosted glass back and metal sides, but that's where the similarities end compared to the S22 Plus. The Ultra is a very squared off and rectangular phone, with a lot more sharper corners versus the S22, which has a much more soft and rounded feel with its corners. And honestly, between these two phones, I do actually prefer the feel of the S22 Plus. It just feels a lot smoother and softer, but this phone, with its really boxy design, does look quite nice. The Ultra also does have that curved display, which does look pretty cool, but I do prefer the flat sides and fully symmetrical bezels of the S22. However, the Ultra's display is definitely a bit nicer. It is a 1440p resolution, it's 6.8 inches, 120 Hz, and it definitely does look a bit sharper and better than the S22 Plus's panel. It can also still reach the crazy 1750 nits of peak brightness for outdoor viewing, it has gorgeous beautiful colors, those deep AMOLED blacks, and it's a Samsung display. You just know it's going to be good, and it certainly is. This display is absolutely incredible for watching videos, playing games, and just scrolling around. Everything on this display looks gorgeous. And since this is a descendant of the Note, it of course has the S Pen as well, which is stored in the bottom of the device. And I really do enjoy using the S Pen, and pretty much no other phones on the market even come close to having this good of a smartphone stylus. It feels nice to hold and use, it's smooth with virtually no latency, and it really just feels like you're writing on a piece of paper, but 100 times smoother. It's wild. And it really is a real joy to write or draw on this device, even for the simplest things like a rough sketch for a design or photo concept, writing up simple lists or reminders, or even just the odd thing here and there like, for example, I was at a restaurant, we were splitting up the bill, and it made a lot more sense just to scribble down the numbers versus going into the Notes app and typing it up. It's a lot quicker, it's a lot more efficient, and for me, it feels more natural just to write things down versus type them up. I'm one of those people who really likes using sticky notes and Sharpies or pens to get down my ideas or draw up simple sketches, and this is the most seamless digital transition for me to get down my thoughts and ideas. I love using the S Pen. It also has all those Bluetooth remote air gesture features, like you can trigger your camera shutter, control volume, launch certain apps, all from the S Pen, and it is pretty cool. But this being all said, as much as I love using the S Pen, it's not an essential feature for me. Every time I use a Note phone, I love using it, but when I'm not using a Note phone, I don't really miss it or long for it that much. But that's just me. If you're considering buying the Ultra though, you know exactly why you're buying it. Maybe it's specifically to have an S Pen, or maybe it's just to have every possible feature imaginable. Whether you use those features all the time, or once, or twice, or never, you have the options available. And the S Pen is part of that package. A few of the quick points here, this phone has an in-display ultrasonic fingerprint scanner which is very fast and accurate, a solid front and bottom firing speaker setup which does sound pretty good, there's water resistance, and the hole punch camera cutout at the top of the screen for the 40 megapixel selfie camera. And selfie photos on this phone are excellent. They're sharp, they're detailed, they're bright, colorful. I think they look great. The front-facing camera also has autofocus, which most phones actually don't have for some reason. Basically, if you're shooting any videos with the front-facing camera, you'll always be sharp and in focus if you're far away or up close like this. And also, this is just a great feature to have for taking selfies in the dark or just taking regular photos. You'll be a lot crisper and a lot clearer. Another pretty unique feature for the front-facing camera is the fact that it has this auto-framing feature, kind of like the Tab S8 Ultra and the iPad Pro. And it does work fairly well. I wouldn't say as good as the Tab S8 Ultra does it, but still, I mean, it does kind of work. The other big difference between this phone and the S22 Plus is the camera setup at the back, and it is a pretty wild camera setup. You're getting a 108 megapixel main camera, 10 megapixel 3x telephoto zoom camera, a second 10 megapixel telephoto periscope camera with 10x optical zoom, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide 120 degree field of view camera with autofocus. I brought this phone with me on my recent trip to New York, and I grabbed a bunch of shots at home here in Toronto too. And I've had a lot of time to really test out this phone's cameras, and they are very impressive. I thought the S22's main camera was great, but this phone does definitely have some improvements in sharpness, brightness, and other areas with the main camera. The ultra-wide camera here is also excellent, and having autofocus is definitely a feature I appreciate. Everything just looks a lot crisper and clearer during the day and night as well. It can also get those super wild perspective shots since you can actually control where the camera focuses. The S22 Plus's ultra-wide camera doesn't have autofocus, and most other phones don't have this feature either. The telephoto situation is also pretty smart on this phone. You have the reasonable 3x telephoto zoom for those kind of slightly zoomed in shots you might like taking, but you can also go crazy and switch to 10x optical zoom, which still takes good quality shots from a distance, and even zoom all the way in digitally to 100x if you need to. Now, of course, 100x zoom is not going to be the sharpest or the clearest, but like 30x zoom, 40x zoom, even 80x zoom is still decent enough quality. If you don't want to use that crazy level of zoom, you really don't have to. It's just an option to have on this phone because this is the Ultra, and that means you get everything. The phone also kills it with low light and nighttime shots. These are all shot with auto night mode, so when the phone thinks it needs to trigger night mode for that longer exposure, it does it automatically. And honestly here, across all of these night shots, the phone really did a stellar job. There's great detail, low noise, and the photos look very accurate to the actual night scene. And I definitely found these shots to be much better than the low light photos coming from the regular S22 Plus. 4K video on this phone is also a real treat. It's sharp, it's beautiful, stabilization is smooth and natural, colors are nice, autofocus is great, audio quality is solid. Samsung has really become a leader in smartphone video recording, up there with Apple. It's consistent, and I really do enjoy shooting videos with this phone in all conditions, day or night. You can also shoot 8K videos up to 24 frames per second with this phone, but the overall quality besides the resolution isn't as nice looking as this beautiful 4K video looks. And that's the camera setup on this device. It might be the most versatile camera setup on really any phone. In all conditions, shots look great, there's a crazy variety of different cameras to shoot with, and I just really enjoy shooting photos and videos with this phone. One thing I gotta mention though is the camera setup at the back. Like physically, it is always a mess. In between all the lenses, it picks up so much dust and debris that I've just given up trying to clean it. It's impossible to keep it clean. And also because there is no camera bump on the back of this phone and there are so many different lenses, your finger just naturally ends up resting on the lenses, covering them in fingerprints and smudges, and it's super annoying. So just be cautious of that because those smudges and fingerprints will ruin your photos. Just keep those lenses nice and clean. And just like the other S22 devices, shots coming out of these cameras in social apps like TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat look much better than previous years. Samsung actually worked with these companies to improve the quality of photos and videos and allow you to actually use some of the camera features and the variety of cameras in these apps. So pretty nice to have great consistent quality between the main camera app and the social apps you might use. Okay, we've already talked about software on my Galaxy S22 Plus video, but a quick refresh with this phone. Basically, in summary, this is the best software Samsung has ever shipped. It's clean, it's smooth, it looks nice and personal, and it's not full of bloat or unnecessary things. The features here are thoughtful, the icons look pretty nice, and it is a pleasant software experience to use. We do have some additional exclusive features here though with the Ultra, like the S Pen floating menu for activating notes, the drawing apps or other quick app shortcuts, and of course multitasking and split screen or floating windows with this device is a real treat on this massive display. And using the S Pen for arranging and organizing floating windows and split screen windows is definitely much easier than using your finger. And you can also go even bigger with your multitasking and activate the DeX mode. Basically just plug your phone into a monitor, hit the DeX button, and you have a desktop style user interface. Okay, performance. As you expect, performance on a flagship top-of-the-line smartphone is going to be incredible, and that's because it has the Snapdragon 8 Generation 1 processor, 8 or 12 gigabytes of RAM, and you can also get up to 1 terabyte of storage in this device as well, if you really need it. And day-to-day performance with this phone is really a dream come true. Now, I'm not going to toss up charts or benchmarks or stuff like that. Pretty much what I will say is this phone is just stupidly fast. From the simple things like just opening up apps, they open up almost instantly. And multitasking and split screen windows or floating windows, it is a smooth, beautiful experience. And you can also keep apps open in multitasking without closing them, and the phone will remember exactly where you left off because with all that RAM, it's going to keep things open and ready to go. Playing games, whether it's natively on the phone or streamed through Google Stadia or Xbox Game Pass over Wi-Fi or 5G, excellent experience as well. No matter what you throw at this phone, whether it's just day-to-day simple tasks or more intensive things, this phone can handle it and it's going to stay fast and fluid for years. The phone's software is also going to be updated for years as well. You're getting 4 years of those big Android software updates and 5 years of security updates. So shout out to Samsung, we love to have software updates on our devices. And powering this massive phone is a pretty large 5,000 mAh battery. Not too much bigger than the 4,500 mAh battery on the S22 Plus, but still, it has great battery life for my testing. I start most mornings at around 7 a.m. and watching videos, scrolling through social apps, writing some notes and occasional sketches throughout the day, streaming some games with Xbox Game Pass, taking a bunch of photos and videos. I ended most of my days during my testing period at around 30%, about on par with what I was getting with the S22 Plus, but easily still, a full day of usage with this device is 100% achievable. And if you forget to charge up your phone overnight sometimes like I do, at least you'll have a little bit of battery life left for the morning to get through your early morning routine. And speaking of charging, this phone does support 45-watt fast charging, which is definitely a welcome upgrade, but no charger in the box once again. There is wireless charging and reverse wireless charging as well for charging up other phones if you really need to, or small Qi wireless charging accessories. It's a nice feature to have. Okay, to conclude, this phone takes the greatness and core identity of the Note line and fuses it with the S line to make it feel much more approachable than being an entirely separate lineup of devices. This phone also positions itself to being an even closer competitor to Apple's iPhone Pro Max line, with more features, a stylus, and more cameras. For hardcore Note fans, this is the next natural evolution. It has all those excellent Note features with a wonderful S Pen, excellent cameras, top-of-the-line specifications, huge, bold design. It truly lives up to everything the Note was. This phone's also not just for Note fans as well. For those who want the ultimate smartphone with every possible feature, the craziest camera setup, the best, most beautiful display, this phone truly does have it all. But if you want to save some money, you want a smaller device, you don't really need the S Pen or all those camera features, no problem at all. The S22 Plus is a great option. You're not really missing out on that much going with this phone over the Ultra. This phone delivers an excellent experience as well. And that's pretty much it. I want to hear your thoughts on the Galaxy S22 Ultra. What do you think of this phone? Let me know in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe, and thank you for watching.